Okay, welcome back to Chain Spotlight. Today we are diving into the wild world of Bitcoin innovation with a project called Type Protocol, guys, and it's trying to jazz up Bitcoin with the DeFi. And we have Fitzy with us. So, hi, Fitzy, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. Thank you for having me, Pep. Great to be on the show.
Cool. Fitzy, before we start to deep dive about the Bitcoin and then also the DeFi on the Bitcoin. Could you introduce yourself first to our viewers?
Yeah, so I'm Fitzy, Neil, my real name, if anybody cares, but
Oh,
I go by Fitzy in this crazy world of Web3. So I'm the head of marketing currently at Tap Protocol. And in terms of what I've done in Web3 up to now, I've been working sort of full time in the space for about 3 years. Joined in 2017, obviously Bitcoin, didn't do anything with it because couldn't do anything with it. It's just hodl.
yeah,
We know
just hold Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, we know the mission. So followed the mission, and then around 2020 started to get more educated in what I would call, full Web3, go down the rabbit hole. Found some communities, bought some NFTs, lost some money on some NFTs, all the usual stuff. And then I worked for the first full time role was working for a a P2E, a basketball P2E on Ethereum.
Hmm.
Moved out to LA with my wife, quit our jobs, moved to LA. Let's do this. The company failed as soon as the bear market started, so that was unfortunate. Then was lucky enough I'd met a guy called Sam Jones, who was a British entrepreneur, and ended up being brought into his company as kind of like a head of creator relations type role and a bit of like business development and partnerships. And that was a cool company building a software, essentially a social commerce app. Like, so imagine like Twitter Spaces, but where you can buy and sell products and digital assets all within the actual room. And that was being built also alongside Snoop, which was kind of cool to work for that company for a year. And then I did a bit of freelancing, bit of consulting, worked with On Chain Monkey for a few months, which is kind of like my main community. I kind of, in many communities, but that's my main one, my OG kind of like NFT ordinal community. And then ultimately, 6 months ago, came in and joined head of marketing here at Tap. So, a few different roles, a few years that feels like 10 minutes, but that's kind of a brief-ish background
Yeah,
on
yeah,
me. And
yeah. The time is roll so fast, and I heard that she lost at the NFT. I think everyone should have been experienced loss in the crypto space, right? But in a different way. You guys in NFT, but myself in the futures trading. So we have some experience, but it's a different story. So that's the story behind UVC. So what the story behind the TAP protocol? Was it born out of a late night hackathon? Because some of project born from the hackathon, find the other guys, meet and create a team and
yeah.
create the project. So how the story behind the TAP protocol?
So it wasn't built out of a hackathon. So I think for anybody that's not majorly in the Bitcoin ecosystem, it's worth just setting a little bit of context. So as I mentioned earlier, from personal experience, right? Bitcoin, you couldn't do much with it.
Yeah,
People tried to do lots of things, different protocols over the years, but none of them really found any traction.
yeah.
Ordinals, end of 2022, sort of January, February 2023, that kind of time, of course, completely blew up. Casey Rodemore launched it. It was incredible. And it really, everyone went down the idea of, okay, well, now we can do JPEGs on Bitcoin, right? It's not JPEGs, but, different conversation.
Hmm.
And Benny, the founder of Tap,
Yeah,
immediately thought, well, okay, this is going to enable a whole new level of programmability. So while other people were focusing on things like BRC20, which are, these kind of like really basic meme coins, and you can't really do much with them, they're certainly not programmable, but people made a lot of money. Benny was already thinking, well, that's clearly going to stop at some point. The mania will stop and people will demand actual products, actual, decentralized finance, lending, swaps, things like Uniswap, all these kind of things, right? And so he immediately saw the vision and started building and did build and launched in August 2023 Tap Protocol. So over a year now. And the TLDR in terms of what is Tap Protocol, it is built directly on Bitcoin, directly on top of the Ordinals protocol, and it is the most programmable layer one protocol on Bitcoin. So the TLDR is if you imagine Ethereum level functionality, smart contracts, full DeFi,
Yeah.
you now have that on L1 already because of Tap Protocol.
Okay, okay. So that's the vision of turning Bitcoin from a digital gold vault into a bustling device city. So, but let's get into the nitty-gritty. How does Tap Protocol will do this?
So, like from a really technical level,
Yeah.
yeah. So, one thing I will
Like,
say, I am not a developer. However,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
have of course studied the product for 6 months, and so I can give you a pretty comprehensive answer. So, there are quite a lot of things to unpack, right? But I think that the best starting point is just with context. Bitcoin literally does not support you taking a smart contract
Yeah.
and putting it in the chain, right? It's literally impossible. Like you cannot do that. And so once you accept that that can't happen, you have to say, okay, well then what is the most secure and decentralized way that we can enable that type of functionality? So again, just think things you can do on Ethereum, right? How do we unlock that for the Bitcoin ecosystem? And so we partnered with ICP. And so obviously your audience would know about ICP, but I'm not quite sure how technical your audience are. So I will just go into some of the basics here. So ICP's architecture has these subnets, right? Within these subnets, to the decentralized subnets of the entire network, you can have in there something called a canister. So, visualize that as a box, let's say, and you can put in there a smart contract. Now, you could write that in Solidity, you could write that in Rust, you could write that in JavaScript, TypeScript, Motoko, but you put that in there. So the logic, the brain, the smart part of these contracts is housed in there. Okay, cool. But how do you make that interact with Bitcoin, right? Which is the next step. So you need to have a wallet, right? A Bitcoin wallet that's also housed within these canisters. And so if I were to give because that all sounds too technical. So let me just give a visual. Imagine that you literally have a Bitcoin bot or a Bitcoin agent, this smart agent that has its own wallet that is securely stored within a decentralized subnetwork of the main ICP L1 network. Been around for a few years, obviously, ICP. We're not talking about some new infrastructure, very decentralized, very secure, very trusted. I don't know the market cap, but I know it's quite big. And so ultimately, you can, in that way, have full smart contract functionality, but it's controlling the assets directly on layer one of Bitcoin. And I want to double stamp this. No asset is leaving L1 Bitcoin. The UTXOs are being manipulated by this canister, this Bitcoin agent, this bot, however you want to visualize that, right? But the assets stay. So there's no wrapping, there's no bridging, there's no L2 infrastructure. You are literally using L1 Bitcoin and the assets stay. So that's how you do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Besides that you talk that the basic behind the tap protocol, but the biggest topic and the biggest story is like we right now all people start to thinking how to utilize how to maximum the bitcoin potential market
Yeah.
because it's very huge and some people maybe thinking before like ordinals and tap protocol some people thinking like bitcoin is only for store of value but with web2 people want it more and more and then come ordinals and then right now a lot of bitcoin infrastructure happen and like the chat protocol. So with a lot of platform that want to utilize Bitcoin ecosystem. So how like chat protocol have like a features and what's your magic to cast on Bitcoin with tap?
So kind of what are the core features? What things can you
Yeah,
do?
yeah.
Like
So
yeah, okay. So again, I've
because sorry because like I check on your website like you have OrdFi application that's amazing. So let me know more. Let me know more.
Yeah. So yeah, great question. It's always good to dive deeper because I've given a very broad stroke and said
Yeah.
everything you can do on Ethereum, smart contracts, DeFi, and of course that's an easy statement to make, but it is of course true. And so to emphasize that, the first thing I will say is when we talk about DeFi, around not even 2 weeks ago, so that there is a product called Taparoo Swap, and again, just to visualize this, this is Uniswap, but on L1 Bitcoin,
Okay. Okay.
right?
Cool.
So when we talk about programmability, we talk about these DeFi primitives that you need in order for this true programmability and true decentralized finance protocols to be able to grow. That is one of the gold, I mean, if not the gold standard. If you have something like that, you know how complex and advanced these interactions are, especially if the assets are safely stored and moving around on L1. So we're talking about automated market makers, liquidity pools, swaps, peer-to-peer, decentralized, no centralized entity, just this smart contract that's facilitating it. Um, that's what we're talking about. So lenders or liquidity providers can earn yield. We're literally talking about Uniswap product. It's different brand, different company, but it works the same on L1 Bitcoin. The only difference is block times are longer.
Mm. So block time on the Taproot swap is more longer.
Well, this is the really key point. Tap protocol is built on L1. So
Yeah.
when we talk about the block times, we're talking about Bitcoin blocks because the Bitcoin miners are mining these transactions. This is why this is revolutionary because this is not on L2. This is all happening on L1. So the security, the decentralization, and of course, we'll come on to the liquidity of Bitcoin, 1.8 trillion, something like that. We just flipped, Bitcoin just flipped Saudi oil,
Saudi. Yeah, Saudi oil. Saudi oil.
right?
And close to Amazon and Google.
Then, well, that they're going down probably by Christmas.
Yeah.
We flipped silver, but the key point here and why I always bring DeFi up originally, I in the first place is this is a humongous amount of liquidity, right? A humongous market cap, but people haven't had the ability to use it within DeFi. So, for example, do a lending protocol where you give your Bitcoin so other people can lend so you can earn. Put your Bitcoin into a liquidity pool on Taparoo Swap so you can earn. But you don't have to wrap it or send it or trust somebody else's consensus mechanism. You are literally trusting the Bitcoin miners. And so I always start there. I'll stop because I can hear myself, but that I'm just underscoring the significance of that on L1.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I read that on the TAP protocol there is a feature called token creation. It is true?
You can create tokens, yeah. So we already have. I mean,
Yeah.
the protocol isn't new. It's been active for iteratively improving, and like you have with tech. But we have PFP projects. We have meme coins. We have utility coins. We have the ability because it's so programmable. You have the ability to do governance tokens. So DAOs. There's a core feature called token authority that allows you to literally control the rules of how your token will interact within a particular environment. So let's think gaming, let's think metaverse, right? And then on top of that, you have something called multi-send. So people think that,
Yeah.
well, they don't think it's true that interacting on Bitcoin is expensive. Airdrops are expensive. But
Yeah.
on Tap Protocol, they're a lot cheaper. Like, I don't have a percent, but we're talking like 80, 90% cheaper because you can say, I want to do a distribution like we did our airdrop for our Tap token that launched. TDE was, again, 2 or 3 weeks ago. I've lost track of time, but we distributed to something like 60,000 wallets and
Wow.
it took six transactions and it cost around $3,000. You try and do that
That's cheap.
on runes, you're gonna have to do 60,000 transactions.
Yeah.
So when we say that it's cheap, it's cheap. So if you're doing
Very cheap.
gaming, ridiculously cheap. Like again, I wish I
Ridiculous
had
cheap.
the data. I wish I had the data, but it's the only way to describe it is ridiculously cheap compared to anything else that you can do on Bitcoin if we're talking about L1. L2's totally different, but that's not what we're doing. We're building for full security, full decentralization, and we want to drive value to the miners, which is a really key point that people sometimes miss. If we're transacting on L1 with everything that's on tap, all these people are transacting, all this DeFi, that's great for the miners, which keeps Bitcoin secure. That's why we do it.
Yeah, yeah. That's need to be to do like we have miners because to keep the security and keep the network run. And mention about you do iDrop in a few weeks ago. So Tap just launched on the markup. You guys have token, right? Tap token, right?
So the protocol went live over a year ago, 15 months ago or so, roughly. But the token, so we partnered with, or not partnered with, we yeah, the word's not important. We launched the token with CoinList. So I don't know if
Yeah,
people.
I know it's. I
So,
participated on the file coin.
this is a great example. So I always use this example for people to understand what CoinList is. Is that so? CoinList launch usually big infrastructure projects, right? It's not like a
Yeah,
meme coin platform. So they launched Solana, Filecoin, Immutable X, right?
yeah,
And we are the first. We were the first. Are the first Bitcoin token to launch ever with CoinList. Um, but the actual distribution of the token didn't happen until a few weeks ago because unlike what many people do is they'll launch a token and then say, "Hey, in the next years we're going to build some stuff," right? We built and launched in the same 2 or 3 weeks the token. Well, we launched. We didn't build it all in 2 or 3 weeks. We launched. There was a marketplace, the swap. Obviously, we helped build the tech with the Taparoo team. We supported them there. There is a bridge, the first and to this day only L1 Bitcoin to L1 Ethereum bridge. So our token, for example, is already on Uniswap, is already on
yeah,
KuCoin, but also, of course, within Taparoo Swap, the DEX on L1 and MEXC and Gate.io. So that's also incredible for liquidity to now have a complete pipe between the two main ecosystems directly onto L1. And the only other point that I'll say on that, unless there is a question about this later, is okay, our tokens can go across and back. Any tap token can now go across and back, and they already are. However, it gets really interesting in a few weeks. I don't have a date. Sadly, I wish I did. But in a few weeks, you're going to have the ability for ERC20s to come
oh,
across to L1 Bitcoin. So you could have just insert any of the ERC20 tokens. And also that includes stable coins. So USDT
yeah, yeah,
will come to tap. And for anybody that is a DeFi fan, you know how bullish that is for DeFi when you have stables in the ecosystem. So the
yeah,
bridge is also incredibly bullish.
yeah. And speaking of second, like you mentioned about bring ERC20 and including USDT, it is huge. It's very huge, and I think that one of the most huge stablecoin right now is USDT. So tell us about this USDT on Bitcoin plan, like putting USDT on the blender with the Bitcoin, or how it's going to be impact to the tap protocols.
So the stables, I mean, there's a few levels to this. Like, if you just think about the fact that, of course, in any other chain ecosystem, you have stable coins, right?
Yeah, if very
Um,
needed.
and if anybody was to take like a list of like a tick box exercise of, when you say you have DeFi, do you have an AMM? Do you have pools? Do you have yields? Do you have
Yeah,
lending
yeah,
protocols? They would very quickly come to, do you have stables, right? Have you found a way to create stables? And so to be able to take the largest one, the existing one, and again, I wish I had some data, but of course, millions and millions and millions and millions of people have it, interact with it, and just from a reach perspective for the protocol, for people to go, oh wow, so they were saying DeFi, but we literally now have USDT on here, right?
yeah,
Like on Ethereum. This is why I make the Ethereum comparison. It's you can just do these things, but slowly the infrastructure has to be built. And where, well, I say we, the devs who actually do the work. I just talk about it. Easy part, right? So the stable coins, they're used. I will preface this by saying I am not like the huge degen. I don't go around usually and use a
Yeah.
lot of these DeFi protocols, but stables unlock a lot of things. So if you want to use a liquidity pool, let's say, right? So right now we have Bitcoin and the tap token, Bitcoin and the NAT token, Bitcoin
Yeah.
and the insert token here, right? But what you have are two assets that can go up and down, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not really stable to use that word. It's kind of more unstable, right? If you suddenly have pools and you can have a choice, you can either put Bitcoin into a pool along with the token to provide liquidity and earn, or you can put stable coins and another token in to earn. You know that your stables that you put in as liquidity won't change. It's just if I put $100,000 into this liquidity pool of token,
Mhm.
insert token here, tap token, let's say, and 100,000 stables, that 100,000 USDT is not changing. So it's stability, it's confidence, and when you feel secure and confident, you are happy to put more in, and then you have this cycle. So it adds a level of stability, maturity, and just all round trust with that DeFi ecosystem, which means usually number go up because people feel safe. Um, it's just one of those pillars of DeFi. So, and that's just one example. We could use a lending protocol. We could use something else, staking, like gaming, metaverse. There's many
Yeah.
ways that these things can be used.
So, if talking about yeah, USDT or into Bitcoin, it's going to have like a lending or borrowing platform on the Tap protocol, Fitzy?
For sure. I mean,
For
this
sure.
is kind of what I'm saying. You already could now, right? But of course,
Yeah.
you want to have that. There's, I believe, I don't even. I've not had a conversation with them myself, so I guess I can't really give any alpha away. But I am aware of a team that is already building towards this. So it's it's inevitable. It's inevitable. And also one thing I keep saying, it's not just one, right? So, Taparoo Swap, for example, right now is the first ever DEX on L1 Bitcoin, but there is no way that it will be the only one, right? You had Uniswap, PancakeSwap.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these people are going to come in because this is how I think about products on chains and on protocols. The protocol, the actual kind of like, the tech underneath, it's just the tech. How you brand it, how you market it, who you know, whether you're connected to somebody else, whether you've got connections in South America, India, like these are all going to be competitive. So there's no guarantee even that Taparoo Swap is going to be in 5 years' time the top one. Someone else might come in, right? But that's again bullish because if you have 10 lending protocols, 10 staking companies, 10 dexes, right? All that is more money coming in and getting locked into the chain, which is called TVL, obviously. Total value locked for those who in the audience don't know that. But essentially, it's a metric for gauging, it's one of the core metrics for gauging the health and strength of an ecosystem. So the example I would give is think about Ethereum. I don't know the market cap right now. It's something like 400 billion, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
For.
it has a TVL of around 15%, I think, at its highest, right? So 15%, that's probably something like 60 billion, right? But Bitcoin, literally, the first actual TVL, L1 native TVL, exists on Taparoo. And right now it's like 150,000 because it's still in beta. It's still in the first 2 weeks. Um, so if we think about that 1.8 trillion number that I keep mentioning, right,
Yeah.
versus 150,000 of TVL right now, if you take 15% of 1.8 trillion, I'm not going to do the maths, but that's basically the opportunity if we presume that the ratio is only 15% like it is on Ethereum.
Yeah.
I would argue it will be higher because Bitcoin's also the biggest brand. So it's around global, it's trusted, there's regulatory no issues for Bitcoin itself. And so DeFi on there with the amount of money, the amount of wealth, the amount of dormant wallets that one day will say, let me just spend some of that. They say they won't, right? But for anybody listening who's had some ETH in their hands or some Sol in their hands, and you think, I'm just going to stack this, I'm just going to
Yeah.
keep this, I'm not going to gamble, I'm not going to buy any NFTs, I'm not going to go do meme coins. Tell me how that usually goes, right? You usually spend it. So all of that has the potential to wake up. And this is why the first to do L1 DeFi is what makes us really proud because it's technically incredibly difficult, but it's also exciting for people building because a lot of liquidity and therefore a lot of builders, therefore a lot of users, therefore a lot of attention is coming to tap, especially when stables come and people go, wow, okay. And if you want to build or play around in these waters, let's call it, that's opportunity because the bull is just starting. So I'll stop, but that's kind of
Yeah.
my visual of this.
Yeah. And let me like thinking like a few years ago, people just not have idea before Ordinals come, and then Ordinals come, and there is idea like how bringing stablecoin or how to create a project on the Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is like the founding father of the cryptocurrency. So right now I think it's too fast for Bitcoin, but it's great. Right now we have chance to utilize the Bitcoin market, not only store as the value, so we can like if we have lending and borrowing, so we can get interest by holding Bitcoin. So, but I want to hear like how your opinion about in the coming years with the Bitcoin market right now. People so bullish. Every country right now, I think it's very bullish after yesterday a few days ago election. So it's
Yeah.
everyone is bullish. So how do you see Bitcoin, including the project infrastructure for the Bitcoin in the coming years?
I mean, unsurprisingly, I'm incredibly bullish, right?
Only
We
bullish.
Yeah, I don't know how you couldn't be. I just genuinely don't understand how you could not be. We're talking about the OG chain, the most
Yeah.
secure, the most decentralized, the highest market cap, the ones that regulations are now relaxing. You have US government saying they want to own, 1 million Bitcoin. You have
1 million
micro
Bitcoin in 5 years. They want to
Exactly.
buy one
There's only
million
there's
Bitcoin.
only 21
Imagine.
million, right? So they essentially want to economically have the gold supply, but
Yeah.
the digital gold supply, and so
Yeah.
that was also logical. We hear Michael Saylor talk about these things. He's been right all along. This is clearly how it was going to go, and so a lot of these walls are being knocked down. We have another cycle. Bitcoin is what, 16 years old, 15 years old. You have countries mining it, through volcano emissions and energy. You know, the it's who was speaking this weekend? They said something incredible, and I can't remember the quote, but I think the point is clear. This is not like, oh, is Bitcoin now going to make it? It is, and it is the most decentralized asset, and you can send $1 billion of it across the world to anybody that you want without having to ask anybody like that.
Yeah.
Well, 10 minutes. So you tell me how it's not bullish. Like it's incredibly bullish. It's Bitcoin eats everything. And here's another level up, right? So we won't talk about this too much, but Tap is I've already described how we have a bridge to Ethereum, right? We also just
Yeah.
announced that the protocol is also going to be made available to Doge this year. So everything you can do on Bitcoin that I've been describing, you are now going to be able to do on Doge. People on Doge can build lending protocols, staking
Yeah.
protocols, all these kind of things, right? Also, Tap is, to use another word, you can embed Tap. Tap was built
Embed.
like a
Okay.
Swiss Army knife. It's on
Yeah.
Bitcoin because
Yes. Swiss Army knife of cryptocurrency.
yeah, because you can have it on Bitcoin, you can have it on Doge, you can have it in different places, right? So other chains can, Arbitrum, XRP, Solana, ICP, right? So you can have all these things here, but the rules, the regulations, how it works, how you build it is exactly the same. So this is literally this kind of utopia that everyone thought about years ago. This layer one to layer one to layer one to layer one interoperability, but with the security of Bitcoin, right? And the liquidity of Bitcoin, and all these pipes go together. So all roads lead to Tap in this scenario. So it's not just, and this story, I don't want to talk about this much because this is already people think, oh well, everything he's saying sounds too bullish, but it's all true. But this next level where we go in the next 5 or 10 years, it just again solidifies and underscores the the power of the protocol. It really is incredibly powerful when you build
Yeah.
it in that way. It's not we're doing this thing on this chain. It's we're doing this thing and it will be able to connect chains. So I'll stop. I'm quite passionate.
Yeah, that's that explanation is very bullish, including like a country start to collect Bitcoin, want to buy Bitcoin. For example, US want to buy 1 million Bitcoin because they know if the country hold gold, they will be the most lead country like US did, and they know that right now it's turned to the digital age and Bitcoin is the digital gold, and I believe it. If that's true, we are going to bullish in the next 5 years. So we have to bullish also like in the protocol, like the protocol. And what makes me scary when I try to charting about the Bitcoin dominance and also look at the charts, especially Bitcoin dominance is make me scary because Bitcoin is going to be very bullish in the next 2 years. Maybe we don't see like altcoin going to be outperform the Bitcoin except memes, right? Because meme is we can predict it. We can predict it for memes. So yeah, that's it. So let's talk about the collaboration between you guys, the protocol and the ICP. I heard you guys mixing it up with ICP. What's cooking in there? And are we talking about the blockchain equivalent of Potluck?
The blockchain equivalent of what? Sorry,
Potluck.
potluck.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what
I
that
want,
is.
yeah, I just want to know like what is cooking behind you guys between
Ah,
ICP and the protocol.
okay. So I mean, I guess right now we're still really in this first phase of that relationship. It's us and our founder Benny when he realized, um, because everyone knew ICP existed. I think I hold some ICP from like years ago, and somewhere
Yeah,
in an exchange, and I never really followed the trajectory. I never really followed it. I got so addicted with like the Ethereum side. I never even made it to Solana. I
yeah,
just did not. I was just like, let me learn this. And then when Bitcoin ordinals came along, immediately I was like, well, this is clearly the thing, right? And then of course now we're here. But let me not get too down the rabbit hole. So right now it's this first phase. This let's make L1 programmability real, and that literally now is today real. You can come and build these
yeah,
things today on Tap Protocol. Now, one thing that I've heard Benny talk about publicly with an ICP stream a couple of months ago was that he will build an L2, like a Tap L2 using ICP. And so the way to make that make sense is that, of course, we're L1, Tap is L1.
yeah.
However, some people, if we think about certain users, and let's again come back to this Taparoo Swap, DeFi, DEX, liquidity pools, AMM, right? Some users will say, it would be great if I could do it at the same speed that I could do it somewhere else, like, Solana, for example, or ICP. So he wants to build this L2 using ICP so you can give the consumer the choice. So I think about this visually as a marketing guy. So imagine you're on a site in a couple of years' time. I don't know what the timeline is, if it's 1 or it's 2 years, I don't know. And you are there and it's like, okay, which do you want to do this swap in 10 minutes on L1?
Yeah,
Super secure, super decentralized? Or do you want to do it slightly less secure, slightly less decentralized by doing that via the L2? Right? But you have the choice. But by then, of course, you trust Tap as a brand. You trust Tap as a protocol, as a Bitcoin software development firm. And so that's I think one of the next ones that's cooking, right? Is that you give the consumer the choice with their user experience. Um, and I think that's quite, again, the fact that he's already thinking about this is it should give you an idea of Benny is, in my opinion, legitimately a genius. Like,
yeah,
this word gets thrown around, but people have been trying to do this sort of stuff on Bitcoin forever, and he is the first person to do it. And I just think that deserves respect. And he, probably gets embarrassed when I talk like this, but he is a genius.
yeah. It's very genius, and And Bitcoin right now is not just growing; it's booming with the infrastructure. So with the project like Tap, I feel like Bitcoin getting an upgrade. So how does Tap fit into the Bitcoin resonance?
Yeah, I mean, I like the phrase upgrade. I think, this is well, in fact, this is an interesting word to use because I don't know how much you follow the OpCat stuff, for example, right?
Yeah,
On
yeah,
Bitcoin. So people over time, they have these hard forks of the chain because people say, "Hey, we think it would be a good idea if Bitcoin could do this," right? And then it's very
yeah.
rare, and it usually, people have tried to fork it in the past and done things, and it doesn't like Bitcoin Cash, for example, and there's quite a few others, and it never really
Bitcoin
works.
Cash.
Yeah, but and there's quite a few others that I never remember the names, but that's the point, right? Nothing
Mm,
really happened there. It didn't scale. So that's why, the Bitcoiners are very protective, the miners. They don't want to do these things. And so this word upgrade is usually used in the context of, an opcode change. And so opcat is something that we see spoke about quite a lot. And for anybody that doesn't follow it, they're saying, well, if we make this change to Bitcoin, then we could have some cooler ways to utilize it on L1, right? It's not like smart contracts, like it's not doing it to
mm,
the level that Tap's doing it, for example, but it would enable some cool things. However, when you change Bitcoin's code, you risk everything because it's a house of cards. And if you change one of these cards down here that Satoshi, by the way, I should have said this, Satoshi turned it on back in the day
yeah,
and then he turned it off because he said it was unsecure and it would cause big problems for Bitcoin. But there are people who say that it's going to happen. I genuinely don't believe it will, and one of the reasons I don't believe it will is because the more that protocols like Tap and whoever else in the future does some kind of L1 stuff, um, that literally gives more programmability anyway. So the risk stays the same with potentially putting OpCat back live, but the need for it is gradually reducing. So I'm going into this because of the word upgrade because that's what people talk about. So Tap has managed to upgrade Bitcoin to everything that I've spoken about. The genius of that is he didn't have to ask somebody to change the chain.
yeah.
He just figured out a solution, and we utilized some of that chain fusion tooling that ICP obviously has, which is incredible stuff. Um, and that's how we got around the problem. So, yeah, just it was a great question. The upgrade just kind of triggered that in my mind. So I will stop because I can hear myself ranting. But that's my thought on the
Okay,
upgrade.
okay, and in this podcast we mentioned a few times about Taparoo Swap. So
Yeah.
important, how special Taparoo Swap and EMM on the layer one?
It's I think I've already kind of really covered this, but it's incredibly important.
Yeah,
It's incredibly important. You have the ability to now the opportunity is almost zero value locked in the chain, right? Bitcoin is all it's there and you can hold it and you can buy some art with it and stuff now, but you can't use it. You can't put it to work. You can't build a metaverse economy. You can't build an in-game economy. You can't build true DeFi. You can't allow someone who's a whale to say, wait, so I can just use my Bitcoin here. The Bitcoin doesn't have to leave anywhere, but I can just go to this website, put it in a pool, get my receipt, right? Like a digital receipt that you get, these LP tokens. And if at any point I want to take my Bitcoin back out, I just send that LP token back into the pool
yeah,
and it returns me my Bitcoin. But in the meantime, I've been earning because I've been allowing other people to borrow Bitcoin, for example, or trade.
yeah.
That is the killer product. That is the killer feature that Bitcoin never had. And I guarantee you that many people will suddenly realize that they don't have to worry about security, that this is not a risk to their Bitcoin. It literally makes their Bitcoin more secure because more people come to use it. More L1 transactions makes more miners want to come online. More miners coming online means that the actual security of Bitcoin goes up. So their Bitcoin is more decentralized, more secure, There's more users that want to buy Bitcoin so they can come and use all the games, metaverses, buy art, DeFi, and they hodl it. They don't have to sell it. They don't have to bridge it. They don't have to wrap it. They can just put it to work to earn passively for them. So even maxis, big maxis, will eventually say, why wouldn't I make money? That's how big this is. And then the flywheel continues. So
Yeah.
it's just bullish for Bitcoin. It's bullish for miners. It literally makes it more secure, more decentralized, and Bitcoin goes up because Tap now exists. It that that chart is logical. That is a fact.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool, cool. So actually bullish to Bitcoin. And last question to you, Vinci, before we wrap up this podcast. I want to know what will going to happen for the TEP protocol in the next coming months.
So again, I think I've covered some of these things. The huge thing that's happening is the Taparoo Swap will come out of beta. So that's literally going to be, I would think, next week. It's I keep saying beta. It's literally available. It's fully functional, right?
It's
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 just
already it's already live.
but the guys are responsible, and they said, look, we know what degens will do, right?
Mm,
They will go
yeah,
and start to do transactions with high value. So they just said, look, I don't think people are listening, but they said,
yeah,
look, try to do small transactions for the first couple of weeks. We're calling it beta. It is fully functional, but just, there can be bugs. Let's fix those bugs. That's why there's only 150,000 TVL, right? Locked in it. But once they go and they tweet and say, guys, we tested it. It's completely robust. All the bugs are gone. Degen. Well, it's the perfect timing. So that's going to go from strength to strength. There's staking. They're also building staking. They also have the bridge. So Taparoo
hey,
Swap, the handle is Taparoo,
yeah,
TAPAROOSWAP, right? But they
okay,
actually, if you go to the website, taparooswap.com, they have the bridge, they have the marketplace, they have the swap. They will also have staking and also an inscription tool. So
mm,
all of those things will be there. But then the bridge, as I said, having any kind of like ERC20 token come across here is great because it brings more liquidity, it brings more eyes, it brings more developers, it brings more investors, it brings more VC, it brings more brain power and attention. But then stablecoins is ultimately the big thing there. And then the only other thing from a technical perspective that I should have mentioned is, and again, this is quite a technical thing, I believe. I wasn't aware of this phrase until a few months ago, but Tap already solved something on Bitcoin L1 that Ethereum still hasn't solved. And
mm,
it's something called account abstraction. And
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah,
that sounds complex, but ultimately the way to think about it is if we think about a gaming
mm,
on blockchains, right? We all thought it was a dream and everyone started saying it's super bullish. Then everybody realized, well, wait, if I'm in a game and I'm shooting someone and I need to buy more
yeah.
bullets, so suddenly go, okay, MetaMask, okay, click. Don't shoot me, guys. Like, don't stop shooting, right? And then, okay, sign the transaction. Okay, not gonna
Oh,
work. Not gonna work because you have to sign transactions. And so that is a level of complexity and friction that you don't want. So account abstraction is the ability for someone to sign and say that they allow X, Y, and Z, right? How many hours, how much money, how many transactions, right? So it abstracts away, it takes away the friction and the complexity of doing this stuff fully on chain. Benny, the founder, has already solved this for Tap. So when you think about that, metaversing and gaming and all these kind of dApps and things, that's also incredibly bullish. And I think Ethereum, they get this going live after the peer review process. I think it's Q1, so January, February.
yeah.
So that's another big thing. We haven't even talked about something else that I don't know how much time we have. Do you have any time? Because there's one other thing that I haven't mentioned that I'd like to
Ah, it's
guide.
free. It's free. You want to be more than 1 hour? No problem.
Well, do you know anything about DMT?
DMT, I never heard about it.
So anybody in the audience might think, okay, well, that's a drug. So DMT is a drug, but we're not talking about drugs.
Yeah,
when
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
taking my drugs. Trust me. So DMT stands for Digital Matter Theory.
Oh,
And what this is, and it's hard to explain it if you've never heard about it, but let me try. So Bitcoin has been going for 15 years, right?
yep.
And blocks every 10 minutes or so, they execute and then that's done. That's on the chain, right? But within those blocks, there is so much data, right? An
Yeah, yeah. So
incredible
much
amount
data.
of data. And so there are something like 37 or, you know, areas of a block, call them a field of data, 37 fields of data. Imagine a spreadsheet, the time, the hash of the transaction, how many dollars were stored in the transaction, for example, how many Bitcoin, da, 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 how many sats. So all of these pieces of data, nobody's ever really gone and fully indexed the chain, i.e., used an indexer like it's called the graph on Ethereum, and it
Okay.
reads historically all the data, puts it into, if you imagine these like digital filing cabinets. And so developers, when they want to build products, they can just go pick the data that they want. What they don't
Hmm.
have to do is build their own indexer and then go back and scan all of the chain. And then everybody around the world is all the companies have their own filing cabinets, right? So what that is centralized data, right? Why would I
Yeah.
trust you when you tell me what's true? I want the source of truth on Bitcoin to be decentralized, right?
Hmm.
On
Yeah,
Ethereum to
yeah.
be decentralized. And this is why I wasn't going to go into this, but Benny also invented this, right? No, invent is the wrong word. Benny built the first decentralized Bitcoin indexer. So it reads the chain. It
Hmm.
provides people with that data, and as of Q1, when we distribute all the nodes, the validators, essentially software that you can put on your computer, like Bitcoin, right? There'll be 3,000 around the world that have these validator nodes that are running this thing, that are checking that what track says is true is true. So you now have there is a point here. Apologies to anybody that's fallen asleep. Um, it will get more interesting. So once you have all of that data in all of these digital filing cabinets and you trust that thousands of people are all saying this is true, what you can now do is go and really look and find different organic patterns that emerge in the data over
Okay.
time, right? And the only way to visualize this is think about, if you're a science guy, the periodic table, right?
Oh,
You have
I heard it.
hydrogen,
I heard it.
right? You have hydrogen, you have oxygen, you have, you know, all of these elements, right? Digital physics is what has been discovered, and it's called digital matter theory. So you can create assets in completely unique and cool ways. And not only can you create these new assets on tap using DMT because of this indexer that Benny also built, right? Assets can be triggered by Bitcoin. And
Hmm.
so that in itself is another super apologies to your audience. But like you, by the way, I will send you a video. There is a 2-minute video that explains
Cool.
this
Cool.
way better than me. So give that to your audience because I'm doing
I will
okay.
show it. I will show it. I will show it.
Yeah, because that is 2 minutes, and you will understand what I mean. So okay, we have the ability to do it. We have the ability to find all these different patterns, and you can do a million cool things with that. But at a basic level, Bitcoin, when a block gets mined, creates Bitcoin.
Yeah. Yep.
So every block, Bitcoin itself, not a human being, Bitcoin creates a token and rewards the miners, right?
Hmm. Right.
When you build a meme coin using DMT, it is triggered every block.
Okay.
So now, meme coins in 2025, this is it's a 99.9% guarantee. The first ever coin that miners will be rewarded with that's not Bitcoin will be created on tap protocol using DMT.
GMT. Yeah. Understand
And
it.
you now have the ability to reward miners even more, which, as I said earlier, means you have more miners, which means more security, which means more decentralization, which means miners are happier, which means your Bitcoin is safer, which means your Bitcoin will go up more, and more people will want their coin to be driven to miners. Also, Bitcoin literally will end in terms of being created, new Bitcoin. The 21 millionth, the last Bitcoin will be mined in 2140, so 100 years from now.
Yeah.
If you don't have other ways to give rewards to miners, Bitcoin dies.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have more people coming on to mine because they can't earn, why would they do it? If they don't do it, the security, the wall of security goes down.
Will be done.
It's not as decentralized as something like Ethereum. Therefore, it's not deemed as safe. So this was always going to be the case that people were going to figure out how to do things in a native way. And DMT, and this video I send you will explain it, it's enabling wild things. And we're proud to be the only protocol on Bitcoin that also supports this, because this is not a tap thing. It's a theory. It literally is just saying, now this data is here. You can build your protocol to allow people to
Yeah.
create these assets. Other people will embrace it, but we are the first and we are the only. So it's something that I wanted to get into because it's new. It's a lot of information. People will think I'm crazy, but please watch the video. It's mind blowing.
Yeah. Yeah. As your explanation, so I got the point. Like with TMT, it's going to make everyone happy, create more safe, more security higher, and then it's prepared for if the Bitcoin supply is already mined out, we still have other plan to reward miners. They still work it, and the network still save it. And I can't wait to watch the 2 minute videos, and it will make me more understanding. And like you said, it's gonna be mind blowing, and I'm agree with that.
Do you think it would allow me to play that in here?
Sure, sure. Why not? Why not?
Do you think we should try that? Because I think if you have the
You can
time,
you can share your screen in the in the StreamYards guy.
yeah, let me try that, because I think if that works, then this is the best way to show the audience what I mean.
Yeah,
I do sound like a crazy guy, but when you guys see this and understand this, it trust me, you won't thank me, because now you're going to be thinking about DMT and all the things that it's going to do,
yeah.
right?
I just
So
heard about the MTA.
let me do
Sure,
this. I can. There we go.
you can
I'm assuming that
you can share your
the
screen.
audio. I'm assuming the audio will work.
Yeah, you need to checklist the audio button when you share screen.
Right. Give me a second. That's not going to be looking super clean because I've not even maximized the screen yet. But hopefully you can see this. So can you hear this?
No,
Could you hear that?
wait. Okay, here we go.
Could you hear that? Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear it. I can.
Yeah.
Try it. Try it.
Give me a second. Let's maximize this. Okay.
In the beginning, there was Bitcoin. The digital universe exploded into existence. In the same way that the Big Bang created all the ingredients and building blocks for everything we experience and own in the physical world, Satoshi's creation of Bitcoin achieved the same for the digital world. And just like in the physical world, as time progressed, organic patterns of physical matter started to emerge in the form of elements, like hydrogen and oxygen forming water. And these were inevitably identified and organized into what we now know as the periodic table of elements. And since the moment of Bitcoin's inception, it's now possible to look back and identify organically emerging patterns within Bitcoin's raw data. This phenomenon now has a name: DMT. No, not that DMT. Digital matter theory. Digital matter theory states that the organically occurring, non-arbitrary data being produced in every Bitcoin block can be mapped into a digital periodic table. As with physical elements such as gold and diamonds, some digital elements are rarer than others. And as with physical elements, digital elements on Bitcoin must also first be discovered, but once they are, they can be used to create almost anything: in-game items, metaverse skyscrapers, art, or PFPs. The track network enables the discovery of digital elements by indexing raw Bitcoin block data to unearth these data patterns. Without Track, digital matter would still remain undiscovered to this day. And as the only protocol to support the creation of non-arbitrary assets, TAP is proud to be the home of DMT, powered by Track, accessed by TAP, DMT, built by Bitcoin.
Cool, cool. I saw the track also. Track. So it's part of the TAP protocol.
So Track is the indexer. So the original company
Oh,
was Track,
yeah.
right? So Benny first created the Track indexer because he realized
Okay.
that indexers, by the way, the indexer is not a new thing. These things exist in all major blockchains, right?
Yeah.
Because developers should not have. Let me give you a really simple example. When we go to the internet, right, we use an indexer every day. We use Google,
Yeah, we
right?
use Google every day.
Google reads all of the data on the internet and presents it to you in a digital filing cabinet, aka you go search, right?
Hmm.
Developers should not have to go search all of a blockchain to find the piece of data they need. The same way that me and you shouldn't go have to search all of the internet manually
Yeah.
to do it, right? So indexing is not cool, really, but it is, right? It really is quite efficient. So all chains have this. On Bitcoin, it's called the graph. Sorry, on Ethereum, it's called the graph.
The graph. The graph.
But nobody ever built one for Bitcoin because nobody thought they had to, because nobody thought you would have all of this programmability and data and DeFi and metaverses and art, right? That was Benny's real genius, was immediately saying, wait, I need to build that. And then he said, but if we have all that data, that means we can do all these cool things. We better build a protocol as well that allows us to actually interact with all of this stuff. So he built two things. He also built another thing called Pipe, another protocol, another Bitcoin
Yeah.
protocol. But I guess we don't have time to go into that. But it's yeah. I mean, this indexer will not just read Bitcoin; it will also eventually read other chains, so like Solana and Ethereum. So this source of truth that we call it, this kind of like this truth that is decentralized, Track will be the only one that can get Bitcoin information and Ethereum information and other information. It's also an oracle, but I won't go into that. But if anybody knows what Chainlink is,
Yeah.
Chainlink is
Chainlink.
an oracle. Well, Track also does the job of an oracle as well as the indexer. In fact, Track is
Oh,
oracling for ICP. So that's already live. That's another integration with ICP, but that's from our side. They're using our oracle to, the data. So
that's amazing.
yeah, quite a big. It's quite a big. It's quite a lot of information, as you can tell. It's
Yeah.
a it's a lot.
It's very lot. It's very lot. And I think a lot of from this listener, maybe after this uploaded, they need to become part of the community of that protocol or maybe track. So if you see how people can be know about the protocol, where they should be go.
Yeah. So here we go. So um, our Twitter is tap underscore
Yeah,
protocol.
yeah, I saw it. I saw it. Good
It,
caps.
it's really helpful for this kind of question, right? So tap underscore protocol is tap. And the website is, we actually just updated it. So it's so much better than it used to be. So much information there. And if you're a developer, all of the developer documents and white paper, that's all there, right? So don't listen to what Fitzy's saying, you know, I mean, do, but like, you don't have to believe what I'm saying. You can go look at the documents, the boilerplate, the GitHub, and all of this stuff, right? And that's tap-protocol.com. And we
Okay.
also have the Discord and we have Telegram. But again, finding the Twitter, finding the website, you'll find all the links to go there as well.
Okay. Let me clear. Let me clear. Don't hear Fitzy because Fitzy it's legit, but the official is very legit, right? So you are still legit, Fitzy.
No, of course, but I watch a lot of podcasts, right? And I
Yeah.
in Web3, there are a lot of people, sadly, who say things that they're going to do rather than tell you about what
Yeah.
has been done. And
Yeah.
so when we say things like this, people think, no, I don't think that's possible. Somebody on Discord told me it's impossible. Somebody on Twitter said it's impossible. Usually, there's two reasons why they say that. One, they don't do the research, right?
Yeah.
Two, they have a financial reason to tell you that it's not true because they're invested in something else that if Tap wins,
Yeah. Yeah.
they lose, right? And so that's human behavior. But I always try and put myself in the mind of the viewer and say, Fitzy's saying some wild stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I'm saying, I think I'm trustworthy, right? But I'm saying you don't have to trust me because if you really want to go and look into it, all the information is there. And people have been building on Tap for over a year. But I think now people are starting to um, the ICP stuff was great, I think, because it brought us to the attention of more people, and now people are starting to understand that you wouldn't get a partnership with ICP if you were not actually delivering what you say. So
Yeah.
that's the point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We love ICP because it's a great team and they have a very lot of hub around the world, including in Indonesia. That's why I know ICP because there is a hub from Indonesia. And yeah, that's it. And we already covered a lot with Z today. Start from a birth of the protocol and then move with the USDT, other blockchain. Last one, TMT. So I think it's this podcast will be the first and going to be epic. So thank you for UVT become my speaker, my guest to the Change Spotlight. So very thank you for this VT.
No, thank you, thank you. It was thank you for reaching out, and it was I love podcasts. I this is how people learn. You need to a
Yeah.
tweet is fine, but a conversation for an hour with a smart guy like yourself, like that, that's always the best place to have these conversations. So genuinely pleasure from me. I'm assuming it's quite late in the evening for you.
No, it's like 11 p.m.
Ah, okay,
11 p.m.
not too bad.
So
I
it's
spent a
good.
few years. I lived out in I lived out in Southeast Asia for. I lived in Vietnam for a few years. And so
Oh,
I was a teacher. It's a different life, one of my previous lives. And it's is it like 7 hours, 8 hours, 4 o'clock, seven, no,
what
7 hours,
what's your time right now?
4 p.m. So it's
4
7 hours
p.m.
different.
Yeah, it's different 7 hours. It's good because I start to adaptation with the with with the other countries. So I always sleep more late. So
Yeah,
all good, all good.
I know. I remember. I remember. But again, pleasure, and really do appreciate you
Sure.
having me on the show.
Okay. Thank you, VG, and thanks for tuning into the Chance Spotlight. So let's keep the blockchain right team going. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, VG.
Thank you, mate.